Okay, I'd like to call the village board meeting for Tuesday, February 24th, 2026 to order. Roll call, please, Wendy.
Trustee Service? Here. Trustee Paul? Trustee Zerbal?
Here.
Trustee Atkinson?
Here.
Trustee Krieger?
Here.
And President Kardoski.
Here. Please stand for the pledge. And please remember our men and women that we have throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda by trustee Atkinson and trustee Service. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. Okay, number 5, appointment of village clerk. We have a new clerk here. This is Wendy.
Hi.
Welcome, Wendy. So, who swears Wendy in? Nope. She is. Okay. So
I'll
I'm,
make a motion to appoint Wendy Helgeson to the position of village clerk for an indefinite term in accordance with Wisconsin statutes and applicable village ordinances.
I'll
Second.
second.
okay, we have a motion and a second to appoint Wendy Helgeson as our village clerk indefinitely. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you.
Great to have you on board.
Good to be here.
Okay, number 6, discussion and action on vacant trustee selection, interview and appointment of candidates for village trustee for Ward 11 and 12. Now, before we start this, I am going to tell the candidates that are out here that we will make the appointment tonight. However, it will not become official until tomorrow. So you don't have to come up here and start voting on stuff that you don't have any paperwork on. So. Okay, so we have 2 people that have applied out in the audience for trustee. Okay. I'm going to take the way the applications came in is who's going to go first. So Craig Fletcher, you're up first.
Thank you.
Do we want to invite the other candidate to step out?
He is.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, Craig, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, for our questions, I'll let trustee Service start and then trustee Zerbal, me. Okay,
Sounds good.
What do you feel is the most pressing issue in the village?
For the most part, I think the board has done a really good job. I don't see a pressing issue. It's more or less keeping the plan that the board presently has in place. I mean, we have very reasonable taxes. Services are very good. The camaraderie within the village is very good. So I don't really see a change. It's going forward, trying to just make it better as far as this being out with the public and trying to help them if they have any questions or concerns. Make sure our budget stays within line, because budgets are a huge thing right now, because families are struggling in that. So just basically along those lines. Without knowing what's coming up with the board, I don't have a specific idea, because that would be impossible for me to do.
okay.
Craig, what skills do you bring to the board?
Basically, I've always been dealing with people, whether it being in the military, real estate. I presently have another board for A&A Alexander, which is the pregnancy organization to save babies. I'm a treasurer for our range. I've been a treasurer at NWT, at Nativity. I was on the board of directors for the Winery Association, for the Realtors. So I've always been involved within that kind of structure with trying to solve problems and doing the best we can within organizations to make them better.
Okay. Building consensus is an important role in the position of trustee. What is your approach to collaboration?
Well, I think everyone has a very well thought out opinion. You try to work within those opinions and try to come to consensus to solve the problems. And generally, you can do that as long as, people are willing to work with each other. And within the board, like I said here, it's similar to board in Hobart, which is on the sewer commission, we work together, we solve the problems. On a consensus within what the rules are, within what we have as far as budgets, and that type of thing, to make everything work for the community.
Okay. Chris?
What is your vision for Ashwaubenon?
That's sort of hard for me to give an answer to, because I'm not sure what the village plan on that is. The idea as far as the village to help grow and thrive within the population and make sure everyone can be successful within their businesses and that type of thing. I've had a business in Ashwaubenon for 13 years, and Ashwaubenon really helped make that work well. And I think bringing more businesses and bringing more people into the communities is what we need to do.
Okay. I will say, Gary, do you want to take the fifth question? Unmute yourself, Gary.
You hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Am I any extra noise that was on the previous meeting?
No.
Okay, we're good. All right. This position is due in the election of April of 27. If you are chosen for this position, will you run at that time?
I will, as long as the board wants me to run. The plan will be to run, yes. I think it'd be a good year to get to understand the position, and going forward to be able to articulate what I would have to for the election in 2027.
Thank you.
So Craig, if you are not chosen for this position, would you still run?
Depends what the person does within our area. If they don't do a very good job, I probably would run, yeah. Have to see what happens within that time frame.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions for Craig? Otherwise, and just remember, if you ask him a question, we'll have to ask the next candidate the same question.
Yes, I do.
Okay, Jay?
Give me a little bit of your background, Craig, on your volunteering, what you've done in the village, and also with other organizations. You spoke about nativity, things like that. You spoke about treasurer's role, so you kind of touched on it, but why don't you elaborate a little bit more with some of your experiences with other volunteering?
Well, basically, I was on the secretary treasurer at Nativity for 8 years, signing checks and trying to make sure we could stay within our budget and everything like that. The Winery Association, I was on their board for the maximum of 6 years, putting together a plan to move forward into the changes that were happening within the Winery Association, the winery business in Wisconsin, which is very tenuous because of the different entities that didn't like us per se. As far as the treasurer for our range, so I take care of the finances for that. So almost all the things I've done have been tied to trying to work with people to get things, to have them come to consensus to make things work the best they could within organizations.
Okay. I do have one additional question, and so I'll just do these, Mary. Craig, what do you understand the role of a trustee to be?
Without having any kind of a whatever you would call it, I forget the name right now, but basically to try to work with the community, work with the people within your area to make sure that their needs are covered within what you can do as far as a village. And also if there's a complaint or whatever, to work through that complaint and try to help them get to a viable consensus as to what has to be done, and have them be as happy as they can be within the system.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
I got something just kind of play off of what Jay just asked. Craig, how do you feel your relationship is as far as working with village administration?
It's been very good. I've been dealing with Ashwaubenon for 13 years at the winery, and I've never had an issue. We've always worked well together, Because I look at having a business that you're trying to help the community along with helping yourself, of course, but you have to be in tune with what the community is looking for, otherwise you're going to, first of all, not be successful, and the other thing is you're gonna have a lot of people who don't like you as far as the business. So the idea is to try to get along with everyone, and the same thing within your, awards 11 and 12, have the people feel that their needs are being covered and their questions are being answered. If they have concerns, that they're being answered.
I guess, and maybe relationship with, but maybe it's a different word I should use, your role with administration. What do you feel your role would be working? How would that work with administration?
Well, I would imagine that, like anything else, when you're a trustee or, excuse me, or depending on what the way you term the people who are on that board, you're working within the village to try to make sure the budgets work and make sure you're following the rules of the state and that type of thing too. All those things come into play within what you're doing as far as the trustee. And that's as far as the trustee, I would have to do, which I understand.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you, Craig.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Hi, Casey. Thank you for coming to your interview tonight. I forgot to ask Craig to state his name and address for the record, so could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Casey Telford, 2780 South Ridge Road.
Okay. Kelly?
Casey, what do you feel is the most pressing issue in the village?
So, I mean, I haven't lived here that long, but from what I would see or look at, it would be probably land use. I just believe that with growing cities, growing this area, everything, land has been a big issue. What it's going to be used for and how it's going to be used between housing, industrial, recreational. I think that's going to be a big part of the pressing issue here in Ashwaubenon.
Okay.
Casey, what skills would you bring to this board?
So my background's unique, I guess, from a sales perspective. I think skills come with that, understanding people, looking at situations differently, being able to get into their point of view or their odds are is important. Helps collaborate as a team as well, right? You can see what people are struggling with or what their side of the view is. It allows you to see that and use it towards a betterment of our community.
Thank you.
Okay. Being a trustee in that role, you have to build consensus with your peers. What is your approach to collaboration?
So with that, I would say probably objective thinking. Being able to look at things without putting a personal approach to it, right? What's better for the community overall, and then using data to actually make those decisions and not just from a personal standpoint. That's probably one of the biggest reasons I'd like to run for one of these roles is just being able to look at things, what's better for the community, not just people on these boards.
Okay.
What is your vision for Ashwaubenon?
I would say coming from a smaller town, where I grew up in a smaller town of Ocano, I like that there's a smaller town or town feel to that. And I think Ashwaubenon has tons of opportunity, tons of business, great schools, and I like that it does feel safe. That's one reason why we did move here is you can go for a walk with your dog or your kids and you feel good being there. So if we can keep that small town vibe with Ashwaubenon, that'd be part of my goals.
Okay, Gary?
Casey, this is a position due to be elected for the 27 term. If you are not chosen for this position, will you run for the election at the next election in April of 27?
Yes, I would. So I've thought about running for this in the past. We were going to move here probably about a year to 2 years ago. My father became ill, so we didn't move sooner. but I was planning on running to begin with, and this just happened to pop up, so it came up sooner than I expected. So yes.
Okay, Gary?
Casey, so give me a little background about your volunteering in that, you know, outside of business and that, what else have you done as far as from a volunteer perspective, groups you've been with, what roles you've held, things like that?
So I had a lot more experience, I guess, younger before I started having kids and getting more into business. But through college, I was on the ski team board as a treasurer for, I think, 2.5 years. I volunteered for mountain bike groups throughout the years in college as well, which I've held positions in maintenance and there was like, I guess, as maintenance and what do you want to call it? Trail programs, like, so we build maps and everything for the trails there. I mean, that'd be the 2 positions that I've held, or 3 positions I held on boards outside of business stuff.
Any other volunteering opportunities you've taken advantage of?
Not that I can think of, besides just helping friends and family out.
Can you, what do you feel the role of a trustee is?
So I guess the role of a trustee, from my understanding, would be you're making decisions for your community, whether that's budgets, different building situations or land uses, just anything overall with the village board.
And I'll follow up that question, what Chris had added. What do you feel is your interaction with the staff, with the operational staff?
I guess that I'm unsure of. So you're saying the other board members or the staff?
No, the actual operational staff. So that would be everybody that on the day-to-day is running the village of Ashwaubenon, and how do you see you interacting in your role with them?
I guess I'm unsure of that one. I haven't been on a village board before. Quick to learn though, and find where my position is in that situation.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so the other candidates are not here. So we only have the 2 candidates, which are both of them great candidates. You did very well on your answers for the questions. What's your druthers, board? You all heard the,
I think we're in a pretty unique situation where we have somebody who has applied that is the exact demographic we're trying to figure out how to get to move to Ashwaubenon. Somebody that's interested in actually becoming on one of these boards is sitting right here. So
My only concern is, Chris, is I wish he could have experienced more with the village, been on a board, you know, and helped in ways. Casey's got a lot of great background, and I understand what you're saying, Chris, but that's my only concern. I'm not seeing a lot of experience in Ashwaubenon either.
I get that. I don't disagree with that. I also think that there's a lot of benefit to having somebody come onto this board that doesn't have a lot of experience in our village either. We're going to be able to have him sit on a board, which I actually feel this is the best board that you could ever have right now. We have somebody who is young, wants to learn, and can learn from people that have been on this board for a very long time. Gary's been on here forever, and while Gary's still here, I would like to have somebody with the potential to have extreme longevity on this board as well, not just, you know, another 1.5 to 4.5 years or whatever.
okay, any other discussion, comments?
Mary, do we have a excuse for the 2 that did not show up for the interview?
We have their applications, but they did not appear.
All right, I'll throw my 2 cents in at this time. I've been in this situation a few times when we had to elect, excuse me, some officials on the village board. We've taken applications. We've had a number of applications for the position. We elected it, or I should say chosen as we needed. It come down to the end, we've had elections after, and I've never seen anybody run against anybody except for Chris at that one time. You got 4 applications that I'd love to see the voters choose their person. We can't do that at that time because we got approximately a year to fill this position, which I think we should do. My answer to what we're looking for is find somebody that will be temporarily in this position for the remainder of the term that has experience with the board. We do have one person that is not present tonight, but is on 2 committees, been on them for a while. I happen to be on one of the committees that he's on, and he was very helpful in making decisions for whatever the questions or the problems were. So that's my 2 cents on it. We've got somebody that has experience with the committees, and I believe he would be a good choice for the temporary placement till we can get these 4 gentlemen back in April of 27, and let's have an election and let's let the people vote on this.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Gary, but the fact that they didn't show up, they're out.
That bothers me too.
They're out, as far as I'm concerned.
That bothers me too. When you're running for this, I have to agree with you. So
Again, I think we have somebody sitting in front of us that is young and eager and wants to get involved, and this is the perfect opportunity to do it. If it's something that he doesn't want to do in a year and a half, he's not committed to it, we can let the people decide in a year and a half. That's my 2 cents.
Okay.
all right.
Kelly, Chris, anybody, Jay, thoughts, comments?
I think we're it's nice that we have 2 qualified candidates, and actually all 4 were reasonable candidates on paper. I feel like, Gary, we can't let this seat remain vacant for a year,
No.
but the person who isn't chosen tonight can obviously run, so that makes it a little easier for us.
I agree. We got 2 really good candidates here, and it's really unfortunate the other 2 weren't here. I would have loved to listen to what they had to say, but we need to move forward, and we got 2 really good candidates here.
So do you need a motion? What do you need?
We'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Casey Telford as village trustee for 11 and 12.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to nominate, or to appoint Casey Telford as the trustee in wards 11 and 12. All those in favor say aye.
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 Right.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried. There was 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Casey, you're it, I guess. Congratulations. Like I said, you will not get appointed until tomorrow. So you don't have to vote on anything that you have no paperwork on. Okay.
Congratulations.
Welcome to the board.
Okay, number 7, comments from the public. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments on items not on tonight's agenda? Your team, okay, well, state your name and address for the record, please.
I am Rick Van Lannen, 2673 Pioneer Drive. I'm the Brown County Board Supervisor for District 22. That includes wards 9, 10, 11, and 12 in Ashwaubenon, and wards 1 through 4 and 7 in the town of Lawrence. And I just have a couple of things I wanted to say. Thank you, Madam Chair. Perseverance is the theme I want to use. The county board unanimously approved the agreement of the lease points for the port development between Brown County and C. Rice regarding the coal piles. So perseverance. Thank you to the current leadership on the board and the past leadership to see this through. This ensures both federal and state dollars will flow through, and now we can order materials and get the project going. So it's a historical achievement, I think, and for years to come, we'll see the difference in that. I also wanted to point out congratulations to both the Ashwaubenon and the West De Pere dance teams for their performances at state competition. The Ashwaubenon dance team took first in Division II kick. West De Pere took second, and in the POM competition, West De Pere took first in Division III, and Ashwaubenon took second. So congratulations to them. Ashwaubenon also did very well at the NDA national competition. And as a father of a former state champion dance team member, I understand the hard work and perseverance that they go through. It's a long season for them. And it's great for the student athletes, the coaches, and certainly the parents. I also wanted to make a note that for 2 years in a row, I was a member of the Dad's Dance team, and we took 2 first place. And they had to take out a couple of the spin routines so we could perform. But we did manage to finish first. Just an irrelevant fact, the other team didn't show up, so. But congratulations to these student athletes. It's a great thing for the community, and I really applaud their hard work.
My name is Stephen Zeke Probelski. I live at 2455 Bay Area Place. Just a quick update. They're on our closed circuit, our PMI, that we're trying to do the same thing as what you're doing here. Our closed circuit feeds have a few glitches in so far, so we're still working on that. Also, there's no update on our tipping fees between the city or the town of Holland and the board. More to follow on that. Last, I'd like to ask that you keep your thoughts and prayers in your heart for our military. Our military was devastated over our last administration. It took us over a year to build us back up into full strength. There are some hot spots that are going to be coming up within the continental United States and outside of the continental United States that our military is going to be called upon to do missions in those areas. So, again, keep our soldiers and sailors and airmen and airwomen in your thoughts and prayers, because it's going to be a trying time for the next 12, 15 months. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairman, for your time.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else from the public have anything? No. Okay, moving on. Number 8, written communications or announcements. I have none.
I would like to just share, Mary, and this will be something I'll have to bring Casey up to speed on. I just wanted to make the board aware that I was still getting communications, and I've been working with Joel, working with Aaron on the smell issue coming from Tufco. It's still out there. It is still happening. Even the residents that have been working with is saying it's happening more frequently. So I just wanted to make everybody aware on the board that it's still out there, still happening. I know that Joel and Aaron have been working hard with communicating, and Ashley's been involved in some cases. And at this point, Tufco is still communicating with us, is still trying to act in good faith and being a good neighbor. So
Okay,
things
well,
are
we can discuss that at the next board meeting, Jay, because it's not on the agenda.
right. But I just wanted to share right now because, you know, I'm still getting hit with the issue.
Yeah,
So.
okay. Anybody else have any announcements or communications? Okay, hearing none. We move to number 9, public hearings. Public hearing regarding ordinance 02-3-26, amending Article 4, Use Regulations, Section 17-4-100, Table of Allowed Uses to add major utility as a conditional use in the I-1 Light Industry Zoning District. Chapter 17, Planning and Zoning Code of the Village of Ashwaubenon Municipal Code. Okay, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro. Wisconsin Public Service has requested an amendment to section 17-4-100 sub A. The table of allowed uses for the Ashwaubenon zoning ordinance to include the terminology or the item major utility as a conditional use within the I-1 light industry zoning district. Currently, major utility is defined, just for reference, as infrastructure services providing regional or community-wide service that normally entail the construction of new buildings or structures. So that's what that major utility is, and it is actually a permitted use within the I-2 heavy industry and the IP industrial park zoning districts, and a conditional use in the P public use zoning district, but there's currently no option within the I-1 light industry zoning district. WPS has identified a property to locate a natural gas district regulator station near the intersection of West Main and Spirit Way. Property is currently zoned I-1 light industry. The request to amend the code to create the conditional use option would then allow for WPS at a future meeting to apply for that conditional use permit to move forward with the natural gas district regulator station.
Okay, so this is a public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to speak for or against this item? Anybody who would like to speak for or against this item? Hearing none, I'll need a motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The floor is closed. Okay. Number 10, action on consent agenda. 10A, consider, discuss, act on the open session minutes and closed session minutes of the January 27, 2026 Village Board meeting. B, receive and accept the January 2026 Village Fund financial reports. C, receive and accept the January 2026 investment report. D, consider, discuss, act on the appointment of agent for Quick Trip, Inc., DBA Quick Trip 1270, to assign Steve W. Willis as the new agent to oversee the store. E, consider, discuss, act on the appointment of agent for Christ Oil Company, DBA Christ Food Mart, number 87, to assign Rebecca Armstrong as the new agent to oversee the store. F, consider, discuss, act on the budgeted expenditures for periods between 1/17/26 to 2/19/26. G, review and accept strategic plan action item report. H, receive and accept the February 2026 Park, Rec, and Forestry Department reports. And I, receive and accept the February 2026 Public Works Department report. Does anybody want anything taken out, or I need a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Number 11, ordinances and/or resolutions. 11A, consider, discuss, act on ordinance regulating escort licensing, 02-1-26, and massage establishments, 02-2-26, in the Village of Ashwaubenon.
Thank you, Madam President. The two proposed ordinances in your packet tonight are companion actions intended to modernize and clarify the village's regulation regarding escort services and massage establishments. Under current municipal code, both activities are regulated under a single outdated article. And over time, that structure has become difficult to administer because of some of the provisions within the article are no longer allowed to be enforced. They do not reflect current state licensing requirements, in particular related to massage therapy and bodywork therapy. And they do not adequately distinguish that these two are very different types of businesses and should be regulated individually on their own, within their own article. As indicated, the two ordinances in your packet will separate both escort services and massage establishments into two distinct regulatory frameworks and update standards and definitions as it relates to the current standards for both industries. Hopefully they will provide additional transparency for the applicants, provide a clearer authority for enforcement for our public safety department, and align with the village's intent to regulate businesses within state law and public safety objectives. Specifically related to Ordinance 2-1-26, or the Escort License Ordinance, this essentially repeals and recreates Chapter 6, Article 8, to effectively just separate and regulate escort services. It updates definitions of what an escort services are, their employees, calls for services, and the ability to reduce any ambiguity or improve enforcement consistency within that. Now, with that being said, it has been probably decades since the village has had a licensed escort operate within the village. However, if the village does not regulate it under state law, it has little enforcement mechanism. So it's important to have the escort regulation within our own municipal code so that we can regulate and enforce the provisions within it to ensure all lawful activity is occurring as it relates to the activities of an escort. With the ordinance related to escort licensing applications would be made to the clerk's office. The clerk would then forward those applications on to public safety for review and criminal background checks. And the license itself would come before the Public Works and Protection Committee for an approval or denial. The village board would not play a role in the initial approval or denial of the application. However, the village board would act as that final quasi-judicial body in the event that the license is denied, not renewed, or revoked by the Public Works and Protection Committee. This separates and provides a level of separate duties as assigned to the highest authority, being that of the village board. The massage establishment ordinance creates a new section within Chapter 6. It would effectively become Article 15. Under this ordinance, massage therapists and bodywork therapists are required to hold a valid state license, while massage establishments must obtain a separate village license for the business location. It's important to note that the village does not intend to regulate the practice of massage therapy or bodywork therapy, but more the business aspect of those operations, hence the reason for that ordinance. Much like the escort ordinance, massage establishments would be regulated by an application coming into the clerk's office, a review by public safety and community development to ensure all other requirements under village code are met. And then a recommendation would be presented to the Public Works and Protection Committee, of which that committee would then approve or deny that license. Very similarly to the escort license, the village board would not play a role unless the license itself was denied by committee, non-renewed, or revoked by the village. The ordinance itself sets operational standards for that of establishments, not individual therapists, including the hours of operation, the ability to inspect the premise to ensure compliance with the provisions within the code, and report any ownership or personnel changes. Now, with that being said, and as indicated in the staff report, this ordinance was presented to committee with a recommendation for approval. However, since the ordinance was presented to the committee, President Kardasky and I have met with a few licensed massage therapists to talk about the proposed ordinance and make adjustments to it to better align with with the industry and to ensure that we respect and identify the professional aspect of massage therapy and bodywork therapy. So within the staff report, we've added some additional notations to the ordinance, and I'll just kind of briefly touch on those from what the committee had reviewed. The first thing is we clearly are more clearly identified the purpose and the legal authority for the ordinance. We state that the ordinance is intended to protect public health and safety. It specifically references preventing illicit operations, solicitation, and human trafficking. It establishes zero tolerance for sexual misconduct and clarifies that the village is not regulating the practice of massage therapy, however, except as authorized under state law. And it cites statutory authority and police powers for the village to enact an establishment ordinance. It updates and expands the definitions. We've essentially removed a locally written definition for massage therapy and bodywork therapy, and specifically referenced the definition found in Wisconsin State Statutes 460. So there's complete consistency between village code and state statutes as it relates to the licensing activity of massage therapy and bodywork therapy. We've also established a revised ordinance language related to what the definition of an establishment is, so that it excludes things like hospitals, medical offices, and other facilities that would be regulated under a different chapter of Wisconsin state statute. It clarified the insurance requirement. The previous ordinance as drafted for committee required $1 million of insurance coverage per employee, and the ordinance that now requires or is drafted to require only per occurrence. So it limits, it still maintains the risk exposure to the village, but reduces the overall cost requirement for the regulated establishment. We did identify and more explicitly state that criminal background checks and disqualifications will be reviewed by public safety and by committee. It adds some additional clarification to operational regulations. One of those is the hours of operation. Committee originally reviewed that the hours of operation for licensed establishments would be required to be closed between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. And upon talking with licensed practitioners, it was noted that a later start time to accommodate daytime workers that may not be able to get to an appointment until in the evening, and then the opportunity for therapists to provide service to their patients earlier before their typical workday is needed, so that 5 a.m. start time was established as well. We've added some additional language as it relates to the inspections. Those inspections shall be conducted in a reasonable manner and to the extent practicable, so as to avoid any unnecessary disruption of service or intrusion upon areas where a client may be actively receiving treatment. And that was really to address privacy concerns that the licensed practitioners had. And so that, it should be expected that we're not just entering into rooms where patients may be receiving treatment. We did add some language upon talking with a number of practitioners about some of the concerns that they had related to solicitation. So we've added a component in there that licensed establishments shall report any sexual misconduct, solicitation, prostitution, or human trafficking that may be connected to the premise. And the idea behind that is to have these licensed establishments to be partners with our public safety department. And if an individual is soliciting some type of unwanted or unlawful activity to the therapist, they should report that to public safety, so as public safety has an opportunity to investigate and to enforce any unlawful acts that may be occurring on that premise. And then we added clarification to the licensed therapist requirements that both versions require that massage therapy be performed by state licensed therapist, and no one else in the village would be allowed to perform massage therapy unless they are issued that state license. In addition to that, that's not included in the staff memo, is an exception. So one of the conversations that we've had is that many licensed massage therapists in the state of Wisconsin act as sole operators, and they may practice under their own sole proprietorship, single owner LLC, or something of that effect. And that if they are operating in that fashion, it It is unnecessary to require an additional establishment license, and so we've created language in the code, and that is included in your packet, that sole owners, sole operators of those types of businesses, if you will, they will be exempt from having an additional establishment license because they are already licensed by the state. What this code is essentially intended to target are those larger scale businesses and operations that may employ several contractors, employees, things of that nature, to ensure that they are operating within the provisions of the business itself for the village, and also to ensure that they are only employing, contracting, or utilizing licensed therapists by the state of Wisconsin, to ensure that they're meeting the ethical requirements of their licensure and all lawful activities that, that fall within that area. Again, the article is expanded to touch on massage therapy, bodywork therapy, and massage establishments, and really kind of set that clear, detailed structure that is necessary for us to manage and regulate that industry to ensure that everyone is practicing massage and bodywork therapy appropriately. We hope that it provides an opportunity to work with therapists, bodywork therapists. Our efforts anyway to draft this was an open line of communication between therapists within the industry, as well as provide tools within the toolbox for our public safety to address concerns that may come about as it relates to massage in the village of Ashwaubenon. So with that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have, and I know that there are some practitioners that are in the audience, and they may be interested in speaking in regards to the proposal this evening.
You did a fantastic job with that, Joe.
I agree. I
All
think it
of-
cleaned up a lot of the problems
Yeah.
from the old ordinance, and I think it was great to get input from massage therapists in the village.
I'm glad that you changed the hours of operation because I know specifically, I'm not sure if you guys have been to the lunch and learns where they've been talking about like lymphatic massage. That's very difficult to get into and definitely done not at normal business hours, trying to get people in pre and post surgery. So I'm happy that that is in there to accommodate that. I think we're going to see more of that stuff come into the area. I know there's buildings that are built that have multiple massage suites in them that are looking to be filled here in the near future. So I think you did a fantastic job. I don't know, do we want to open the floor to let them speak? It's up to you guys.
Sure, I'll move to open the floor.
I'll second.
Motion, a second to open the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Motion carried. If you both or one of you would like to come up and please state your name and address for the record. Yeah, hit the button on, because it's, yep, there you go.
So my name is Phil Turnbull. I'm both a resident and a small business owner here in the village. So I live at 2480 Marina Circle. My business address is 926 Willard Drive. So first of all, we want to say thank you to the board. Thank you to President Kardowski and to Joel for taking the time to come in and visit and speak with us as licensed healthcare practitioners. What we've seen in the past is that our profession has been correlated to illegal and illicit services, and there's been a lot of work and a lot of actions done to try and separate the two professions. So I think we're in full agreement that we want these services out of the community, out of our profession as much as anybody else. So we appreciate the time that you both have taken to come speak with us to understand who we are as licensed medical healthcare providers versus just simply people who rub people for a living. So simply stated, you know, in the state of Wisconsin, the definition of a healthcare provider includes MDs, nurses, nurse practitioners, PTs, PTAs, and then it goes on to list many other practitioners, including licensed massage therapists. So when we started to look at ordinances that have been placed in other communities, they disregarded or they changed the definition to not include us. So we appreciate you taking the time to recognize us as licensed medical professionals. So we also say that medical needs don't often follow hours of operations. So in my world, I do body work. I work with a lot of active individuals, people that need to be seen, student athletes, other professionals that do have work hours, so to be able to sneak somebody in as early as 5 a.m. or to see somebody after work hours at 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. but I also have colleagues that do palliative care, end of life, pregnancy, and the list can go on and on to say, if somebody needs services at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, absolutely somebody's gonna be there to provide it. So, I think we're all in agreement in the separation of services, absolutely, 100%. Thank you for taking a look at it that way. In accordance with the changes that have made and some of the updates that have been presented, thank you for listening to us and making appropriate changes. Is there still work that needs to be done to kind of clean things up a little bit? Absolutely. But I think in talking with both President Kardowski and Joel, as a profession, we're willing to lean a little bit in order to sacrifice a little bit of who we are for the greater gain, the greater good of the community. So if we've got to adhere to certain compliances, absolutely. We've always opened up our facilities to anybody at any time to say, you know, if you really want to come in and inspect us, I have nothing to hide. We don't offer any illicit services. But as healthcare providers, we do fall under the Privacy and Protection Acts just as any other healthcare provider. So again, changing the wording to state you can't walk into a patient's exam room or because that creates litigation, lawsuits against the village. So all in all, Ginger, anything else to add? I think I have nothing left to say, and I appreciate the time and the efforts that you've put in that others haven't. We absolutely respect the comments and the opinions of the trustees and the other board members, and we're willing to work with you in the future. So as subject matter experts, if there's questions we can answer, I'm sure we can put a team or a committee to come in to discuss things at any time, any place. I think that's it. Thank you both. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
I'll make a motion to close the floor.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay,
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 02-1-26 regulating escort licenses and ordinance 02-2-26 massage establishments as presented and amended.
I will second that.
okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 02-1-26 and ordinance 02-2-26 as amended, as presented or amended. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 11B, consider, discuss, act on an ordinance 02-3-26, amending Article 4, Use Regulations, Section 17-4-100, Table of Allowed Uses to add major utility as a conditional use in the I-1 Light Industry Zoning District, Chapter 17, Planning and Zoning Code of the Village of Ashwaubenon Municipal Code. Aaron?
All right, thank you. So as noted during the public hearing, this is the request by Wisconsin Public Service to amend the table of allowed uses to add a conditional use option to the I-1 Light Industry Zoning District for purposes of future placement of a natural gas district regulator station. I should note that the Plan Commission did review the requested conditional use permit or amendment and did recommend approval at their meeting.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 02-3-26, amending Article 4, Use Regulations, Section 17-4-100, Table of Allowed Uses to a major utility as conditional use in the I-1 Light Industry Zoning District, Chapter 17, Planning and Zoning Code of Village of Ashwaubenon Municipal Code.
I will second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 02-3-26. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Number 11C, consider, discuss, act on resolution R 2-1-26, disallowance of claim Trudy Streifel.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Trudy Streifel is seeking reimbursement from the village for basement repairs related to restoration and cost to mitigate. Due to water damage caused by a sewer backup, the sewer backup was due to a clog in Ms. Streifel's privately owned sanitary sewer lateral on the claimant's property. The village's insurance carrier, Statewide Services, Inc., reviewed the matter and is recommending the village disallow the claim.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution R2-1-26 disallowing the claim of Trudy Streifel.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution R 2-1-26. Any other comments, conditions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 12, other items of business. 12A, consider, discuss, act on a fourth amendment to the Commonplace Phase 2 Tax Incremental Financing Developers Performance Agreement with Merge Urban Development. Joel.
Yeah, I'll do it. Aaron stepped away. So as had been previously discussed with the village board, Merge Urban Development, the developer of the Commonplace and Odyssey Climbing Gym is proposing to build Commonplace Building Number 2 on parcel VA 55 at 670 Mike McCarthy Way. The village has had a development agreement for the development of that parcel with Merge for a few years. As it relates to some delays in development or the start of construction, this project has been delayed, obviously, and as a result of that, to begin construction of the project, a fourth amendment to the development agreement is necessary. The village is effectively allowing for construction to begin after the development agreement is signed. There are some provisions within the development agreement that footings and foundations need to be installed no later than June 30th of this year. And the exterior building envelope enclosure, which would include windows, doors, wall sheeting, no later than June 16th of 2027. That is consistent with the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services construction plan approval, which requires the certification of occupancy be no later than June 30th of 2028. These are provisions that had been previously discussed in closed session and consistent with direction from the village board.
I'll move to approve the Fourth Amendment to the Commonplace Phase 2 Tax Incremental Financing Developers Performance Agreement with Merge Urban Development.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the fourth amendment to the Commonplace Phase 2 Tax Incremental Financing Developers Agreement. Any other comments?
Aaron? Is Aaron there?
Yes, sir.
Aaron, you and I have had conversations on this. Do you feel comfortable with this? But, this is the fourth time we've been going around with them, and, we got to get something going there.
Yes, Gary, and that's the reason we have those performance standards in there for this, current development agreement. Very specific dates in there for footing foundations as well as building envelope enclosure. And that's consistent with the state requirements to utilize the 2015 International Building Code. So
Okay, so they did get underneath that then, okay,
yes, they did.
okay.
Are they,
All right,
are they aware
Thank you.
that we're looking to not do a Fifth Amendment?
They're very aware
Okay.
that the board is very anxious on this project.
Yeah. All right, as long as they're aware.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed. Motion carried. 12B, consider, discuss, act on road closures for the 2026 Epic Marathon and Running Festival special event. Joel.
All right, thank you, Madam President. As indicated in your packet, the request has been made for approval of the Epic Marathon and Running Festival. That is scheduled for May 17th, 2026. If that date or series of dates sounds familiar, it is always held that same Sunday of May each year. But that is also aligned to the same weekend as the Luke Combs concerts at Lambeau Field, so it's going to be a busy weekend. However, our public safety department is prepped and staffed and ready to work and support the event. The route is effectively the same as it had been last year, and if you recall last year, there was quite a bit of changes to the route to accommodate the impact that the NFL draft had in the region shortly before the Epic race, in an effort to reduce some of the staff burden as related to the marathon. All departments have reviewed the request. This is coming before the village board primarily because it will have some closures on both arterial and collector streets in the village of Ashwaubenon.
I'll move to approve the requested street closures as approved by the Chief of Public Safety for the 2026 Epic Marathon and Running Festival for May 17th, 2026.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the street closures for the Epic Marathon and Running Festival on May 17, 2026. Any other comments?
Always a comment on that. That runs through my area quite a bit. People complain about road closures. Are they gonna let the passenger cars drive through when there's nobody in sight to get through their destinations?
Typically, in the past, we've allowed people to drive through. Obviously, when there's massive waves of personnel and people running through the area, that we're gonna hold traffic. But when there's openings, we'll push things through to keep things moving through the neighborhoods.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 12C, consider, discuss, act on Ashwaubenon Swim Club request to allow additional non-resident swimmers. Rex?
All right, I'll try and set the stage briefly for what's happened here in the past before we look at this. So in 2025, the Ashwaubenon Swim Club approached our department and asked go to the park board, ultimately village board, to talk about allowing non-open enrolled, non-residents to join the swim club. Went through park board. Ultimately, I believe it was in July, village board, which allowed them to become, or to allow those people in, the non-resident, non-open enrolled kids. I believe that was 15% back in the time. And this is all due to the fact that they weren't able to fill some of their relay teams, full them out. Move ahead to December, a couple months later, we had a request again from the swim club to allow more non-resident, more non-open enrolled kids into the program. We went to the park board with this. Again, it was for the same reason. The swim relay teams were still short some kids. So we went to the park board in January. A lot of discussion at the park board to the fact that park board decided to table it for one meeting and then ask us to take specific written questions park board had and ask swim club to answer them, so the meeting wouldn't be going on for hours, which it was starting to do. So those questions were answered and went back to the park board in February, just a couple of weeks, or last week. And before I went to park board, we had a good discussion, interior discussion with administrative staff and myself and Melody, our swim, our aquatic coordinator as well. So again, Swim Club is the only co-sponsored organization that's allowed the non-open enrolled, non-resident kids. They are still a co-sponsored organization, but they do not get financial support from the village. They do get in-kind services, obviously, covered by village's insurance, payroll, paid on a quarterly basis, bi-weekly payroll processing. So they are still, other than the direct finance and free use of the pool as well. So they are still a co-sponsor organization. The question is, at what point would any co-sponsor organization that may decide they want to allow more of these kids in? Where does it stop? Where does it end? It could be going back and forth and so on and so forth. So there was some good discussion at the park board level. There were a number of park board members that asked specific questions, which the swim club did answer. Bottom line is, the recommendations are in front of you. The swim club was asked, what is your ideal number of swimmers in the club? Right now, their enrollment is at about 110 swimmers. Their number was between 120 and 130. So with that number, we picked 125 And we took a look at what their resident, non-resident numbers are. And rather than go 15%, which could literally be sliding back and forth based on membership, we thought it would be best to just go with a hard number. You know what, guys? 25 non-resident, non-open enrolled that allows you to get more kids onto your team. It's kind of give and take, right? So more kids onto your team, but sets a hard cap number. Some of the other issues which are on here is those non-resident, non-open enrolled kids would pay a higher non-resident fee than the open enrolled students. It would be a $50 fee versus $25. The $25 fee, which the current open enrolled kids pay, goes directly to the swim club. With a $50 fee, the village would get the full $50 from the swim club, and then in return, 50% of that, $25, would be given to the school district, because the school district is doing additional maintenance on the facility by allowing in these extra kids, as well as there's more administration from the village's point, just keeping track of things, wear and tear on the facility, equipment, so on and so forth. So that was a point that was certainly discussed. Other issues that we talked about, Park Board wants a yearly report from the Schwabenland Swim Club on how the numbers are doing. If this is adopted tonight, it's going to be a three-year swing. We can't keep having them come back every 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, asking for more kids. It needs to be a hard number, and the management of how and what events those kids go in would be up to the swim club. And by having that hard cap number, I think it really, I don't want to say forces them, but it really makes their board look at what events the kids go in to make the team as solvent as possible and to have as many relay races filled as possible. This still allows them, I don't know, another 10 or 12 kids, I believe, onto of non-resident, non-open enrolled, and they can still continue to recruit with no limit any Ashwaubenon student currently going to the Ashwaubenon School District or any of the private schools in Ashwaubenon. So their numbers can still grow if need be. So that the village board doesn't always get, sorry, this is getting long, but there's a lot of different points here. So the village board doesn't always have to be coming or deciding on these matters. It was talked about that the park board is willing to have the final say on it, so that it doesn't always have to go to village board on things. However, if any co-sponsored organization does not agree with the park board decision, they can come to an open session, request that their issue be heard, and if the village board wants to take it up at a subsequent meeting, they can certainly do so. So it doesn't totally lock them out, but it doesn't automatically then have to go to village board every time there's an issue with residency and numbers on each individual co-sponsor organization. So that's where we are tonight, basically changing what the village board decision was somewhat from last July. Instead of going to 15% of that, whatever that number was in 2025, just a hard cap number of 25 for the non-resident, non-open enrolled students.
If I recall, this was brought up originally because they needed more bodies, right? And there were people available to fill these spots on relay races and things, but the only problem was they weren't Ashwaubenon students. Is that right?
Well, they didn't have enough people. They had the swim club numbers right now are as high as they've been since I've been here, and that's over 20 years. So since I've been here, they're at about 110 right now for total registration. They've never been that high, but there's still, because of the amount of relays that are out there, there were still openings that they couldn't find kids in particular age groups.
Right.
They didn't have enough of a body to do that. And so that's why they wanted to, and the challenge for them on whatever direction is taken here is those extra kids that they're allowing in, to be selective of who they're allowing in so that they can specifically fill those open relay spots out, not just taking other people that will swim in other events that are already solid and still have these openings on the relay team all the time.
Right. And this should help with that, right?
We are hoping so.
I did ask the swim club on that point, that question about being able to get other swimmers to swim in different events, and they do what they can, and they're kind of, by rules, hamstrung on, what they can do, what swimmers can swim and what swimmers can't swim in certain events, so, it does create issues for them, but I think this is well thought out by Rex and his staff, and it gives those guys a lot of flexibility to move forward, in their meets, and doesn't have to, without coming back here every year and readjusting everything.
Yeah, I guess, Rex, I don't have any issue with the swim club, but I would have concerns about other organizations that aren't in these number crunches like this. I just don't want the burden to come back on you and the park board to be making decisions when maybe somebody's trying to abuse it and trying to create a special tournament team for some point. I totally get it for swim. I think this is absolutely we got to do this. I just would hate to see that come back and start to bleed into some of the other co-sponsored organizations. So
I understand, Jay, the
it's the last point that I'm concerned about.
So the opportunity to have more co-sponsor organizations allow non-resident, non-open enrolled kids back in 2025 was given to every organization.
Right.
Swim Club is the only one that came forward and said, yes, we want to do it because of the in-kind money that the village helps support with the other organizations. Some just said, you know what, we don't need it, we're doing fine. And some said, we don't want to lose that in-kind money and potentially other in-kind services. Because the village does quite a bit for some of the organizations, not all of them. Some are very self-sufficient, but others, it's a good marriage. So at this point, Swim Club is still the only one that has come forward and is requesting these additional non-resident, non-open enrolled students.
Rex, correct me if I'm wrong, though, Jay. I believe because I was sat through all these meetings. It will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. So just because
Correct.
Swim Club gets 25 non-resident doesn't mean, excuse me, tennis gets 25 non-residents.
Right, and that's a good point, Mary. There's still, if an organization, I believe it is in July, it was because that's when this whole impetus happened last year. In July, if an organization wishes to switch or allow additional students into their organization that are non-resident, non-open enrolled, they would approach the park board, and the park board would take it up on an individual organization basis.
Right.
It's not, hey, we want to do this now, we get 25. We would the park board would evaluate how many numbers they need, what the issues are within your organization, determine if it's feasible or wishable, I guess, to allow residents or non-residents into that organization, and then start to talk about the individual numbers. So it's not just opening the floodgates across the board. It would be evaluated on a organization by organization basis.
Yeah, understood. I mean, I just, I still have that concern about somebody trying to create a special team, how that works. And, but Chris is sitting there and I know he's aware of that, and I'm trusting, he'll take care of it. So.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, Rex, question, I'm not adverse on your sports activities like Jay or Chris or you are, but do we have people knocking on non-residents knocking on our doors wanting to participate in this? Or do we recruit other people?
I don't think, well, they're not knocking on their doors, Gary, but on our doors. But I will say this, because we have never allowed in until this last year non-resident, non-open enrolled kids. We've never allowed that in at least, I'm guessing 25 years, almost 20 years at least. Most people and organizations know that that's not allowable, so I think at that level, they turn people away from Green Bay, from Alloway, from, you know, other organizations that may be interested of having their kids come over here. So they're not necessarily knocking on our door. I know the swim club may have more people doing that than the other organizations, simply because of the facility we have. We have the best with the newer pool. I don't want to keep calling it new, although it's 10 years old now. With our pool facility, we've got the best one in Northeast Wisconsin, and people realize that. We've got a very good coach. Megan is a very good swim club coach, and people want to swim for us. But
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in terms of other organizations, I'm sure there's some, but it's not reaching our level or my level.
So you think the open enrollment being announced now will draw some kids for you then?
I am sure that once word gets out that there's additional openings now for the Ashwaubenon Swim Club, I mean, they filled that initial 15% fairly quickly. And so with the additional openings, I'm sure they've got a waiting list of people.
Good, thank you.
Does anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the new or updated resolution to allow the Ashwaubenon Swim Club to a cap at 25 non-resident swimmers with the appropriate fees.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the swim club to have 25 non-resident, non-open enrolled, and the other fees that we discussed. Any other comments, conditions, thoughts? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, everyone.
10D, consider, discuss, act on the specification and pricing for Pierce Enforcer 100-foot mid-mount tower proposal, Fire Quint. Commander Doug and Chief.
I'll start off here.
It actually says Angie Peters, but I didn't see her here, so.
I was going to invite her as well. I can just speak on behalf of the beginning information to explain our need, and then Commander McDonough is here. He has a little bit more of the technical information. The current ladder truck that we have is over 30 years old. It was purchased in 1994. It was refurbished in 2020. It has about an 8 to 10 year replacement projection. The problem that we're running into right now is that this vehicle is nearing its end of service. And in order for us to make this purchase and receive it, we need to place the order now because it takes approximately 4 years to receive this vehicle. So it takes a lot of the production. So it's like 46 and a half to 49 and a half months. So we're looking to basically get approval now to make this purchase or place the order. Commander McDonough has already talked to through Sourcewell to figure out the specifications that we're looking for in this vehicle. Obviously, the village has gone vertically in the past 5 years. I think we had approximately 35 buildings that are multi-story that have been constructed in the village in the past 5 years. So, I mean, you can look around, you can look outside, you know, just around the area of the Village of Ashwaubenon building. There's a lot of multi-story apartment buildings. There's a lot of businesses that are starting to be multi-story. And it's just an apparatus, a piece of apparatus that would be really, really helpful for Ashwaubenon Public Safety, not only village residents, but also to support the adjacent communities that we partnership through the Fox River Fire District and the mutual aid box alarm system. So if you have any other questions regarding the technical aspects of this vehicle, I will pass the mic over to Commander McDonough.
I have a question for our finance department. So Greg, this will be bonded for, correct? Because I don't think we have $2 million just
Correct.
hanging out. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, just to touch on that, and I think in the proposal, there were some discount opportunities available to us with prepayment options. So what we're looking for tonight from the board, because it takes 42 to 49, 48 months to actually build and take delivery of the apparatus, basically pre-authorization to put the order in, and then an ability to work with the vendor to still have the opportunity for the prepayment discounts. But in the event that we don't have cash available or it's just not financially advantageous for us, that we could potentially make payment upon delivery as well. So every year, what we would like to have with the vendor is the ability to evaluate what's most advantageous for the village. That if we provide a prepayment, we will get a portion of a discount. If we don't, then we'll pay the full value of the bidded price at delivery, so that we can evaluate it on a yearly, annual basis to determine what's in our best interest. It all comes down to a number of factors. Obviously, we bond for the project. We're going to have interest-bearing costs on the proceeds. So what is that cost for interest on that debt? And then if we do have cash available, is the cash available greater? Is the interest on the investment, if we were to take that cash on hand and invest it on a short-term investment, is that interest retained on that investment going to be greater than the discount on the payment? So every year we're going to have to evaluate it as to where the value of that dollar is going to be best earned, either as an investment or as a discount towards the apparatus.
So I have a question, Greg. If we bonded 2.17 million, is that $300,000 discount going to cover the costs of that bonding?
I would say not the interest.
Yeah.
Cost of the bonding alone is going to run you 50 to 75,000 just to issue the debt.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you're going to, on 2.2 million, your interest costs are probably going to be at least $500,000, maybe 750,000.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what Joel's getting at. We talked internally. Sometimes the discount looks really good on paper,
Yeah.
but it doesn't pay for those added costs. Now, maybe in 2 years, maybe halfway down the line, it'll make more sense.
Yeah.
And then the other areas, now we're increasing our tax levy for something we're not going to have for 3 or 4 years as well.
Yeah.
So we're taxing our community for proceeds and there's no return essentially for 4 more years until you get that asset. It's going to be a longer term debt issue, most likely anyway. So it's something that you'll pay for in the life of the asset. But those are all the factors that Joel brought up: interest costs, where the rates are, those discounts, and that's going to be on their business as well. And if their business is booming, you might have a more or less discounts. It varies. So we would just stay in touch with Doug and his team and just continue to work each year and reevaluate where are we at. Does it make sense to do it today versus maybe wait another 6 months to a year?
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Someone make a motion?
Mary, I got one question. All I hear is buying, we're buying. Is there any value in that vehicle when we do get the new one? Is there a trade-in value? Or what do you do with the vehicle that is perfectly well yet?
I'll let the commander answer that, but I'm going to say that we do end up getting a mere pittance for it.
Yeah, Gary, there is some value to that truck that's out there right now, but it's going to continue to reduce. Once you get above 30 years on the life of a truck, it no longer has value because they don't make parts for it anymore. So it reduces in value greatly for the fire service. Maybe outside of the fire service, it may have some value, but fire service, they can't certify the pump or even the ladder when it gets to the age that it's getting.
Thank you.
How do we, when you go out and try to purchase something like this, I know it's a very unique item. How do we know we're getting our best price, our best value? Because this didn't go out for any kind of bid, right? How does that work?
So I used a company called Sourcewell, and then local companies or other companies throughout the country can set up a bid, their discount to Sourcewell. So then you go onto Sourcewell's website, they'll tell you what the actual discount is that they've already subscribed that that's going to be.
Yeah, so they're ultimately bid, just not locally by the village. It's a federal bid that Sourcewell puts together, and so we use the specifications that Sourcewell has established. Other vendors have all bid on that, and then this Pierce Enforcer is the winner of that bid. And then rather than write our own specifications and go through the same process, we can use an existing federal bid off that Sourcewell program. We've done that once before for either an ambulance or maybe that last pumper engine that we had purchased. We used the same process with the Sourcewell bid.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the purchase of one Pierce Enforcer 100-foot mid-mount tower from Reliant Fire Apparatus Inc. pursuant to proposal 1108 dated January 30, 2026, and to authorize funding consistent with the village's capital improvement plan and approved multi-year payment schedule.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to authorize to put in the order for a Pierce Enforcer 100-foot mid-mount tower proposal. Okay, anybody else have comments, concerns, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 12E, consider, discuss, act on the renewal of the impound agreement between the Village of Ashwaubenon and the Wisconsin Humane Society. Joel.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. We have an agreement with the Wisconsin Humane Society to take animals from our Public Safety Department in the event they need to be brought to the pound. We've had an agreement with the Wisconsin Humane Society for quite some time. Our existing agreement actually expired at the end of 2024. I presume that just because of some transitions at the staff level within public safety, that it was just something that was missed both by us and by the Humane Society. So the attached agreement is basically an extension of that existing agreement that we have for the year of 2026 and 2027. Just note that there's a 3% increase in fees for 2027 as proposed as part of the agreement. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Anybody want to?
I'll move to approve the impound agreement with the Village of Ashwaubenon and Wisconsin Humane Society as presented.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the impound agreement between the Village of Ashwaubenon and Wisconsin Humane Society. Any comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed. Motion carried. Okay, number 13, items for next agenda. If you have anything that you're going to want on the next agenda, please call the office. We'll get it on the agenda. Number 14, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed. Motion carried. Thank you.